Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Now, you guys know I like easy, simple, and today's one is a fun one because it just involves a black fine liner pen and some paper. And this one is easy, it truly is. If it looks, it's almost like a little bit of an optical illusion. Now I am using this fine liner. This is a 0.5, but that really means nothing. I'm just showing you for the point to show you what I'm using. And then I am just taking at the moment, an entire 4¼ by 5½ background. I always start by just drawing one big line through the center, and then I put some dots where I want my circles to join. Now this just helps. You don't want them evenly spaced, you don't want them to be identical, and all you do is just start drawing lines from one to the other, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward. Now, in my opinion, you want them to be kind of egg or oval-ish shaped, and it always looks quite good if you can overlap it where the oval kind of starts and where it finishes. So you can see this sort of like darker black lines, and then you just keep going back and forward. And it doesn't matter whether you go right round in a big oval, or if you just find it easier to draw lines in one direction, or if you want to do one side first and then do the other side. And then to me, these kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you ever did, you know when you do beads and you wrap them in fabric and then you kind of tie it in between, it reminds me of that, like a necklace. Or if it reminds me kind of like watermelons all squished together, it reminds me of lots of things, I don't know why. But anyway, at this point I was like, actually I'm planning on cutting that down this panel, so I'm going to cut it down a little bit to begin with, and of course that's going to save me some of the work. Then when you want to keep adding your next line, just go through the intersecting point there and then just keep going and just keep going. And you just keep going off the edge like you normally would. And again, this takes a little bit of time, but when creating a background, it doesn't take me any more time than it would to create a different background. So to me, it was just nice and relaxing. It's repetitive. It's something you can do while listening to a documentary or watching a TV show or something like that, listening to a podcast. And so it was just nice. It didn't take me very long at all. It took me maybe 10 minutes or so to do this little background, I think probably all up. And then you just keep going. And then once you have done the main ones, you just kind of just do one line off the edge, and then so you join them up like that one there, and then just keep going. And then if you've got little spaces that you need to fill in between, I just generally do little lines that kind of follow one of the other ones just to fill up the gap. And then this starts looking really, really cool. It looks like there's almost layers to it, that there's some that are on top and some that are underneath, and just a really fun technique if you don't feel like getting out all your crafty stuff. Now, this could be very cool if you had the coloring skills that I don't have. If you wanted to do some shading and you could, I imagine, make this look ultra dimensional, that would be amazing too. But for me, I just was happy with the black and white version, and it gives me a chance to add a little bit of splash of color on the rest of the card. Now, this is really cool. I think when looking at it like this, it's hard to believe you kind of just create that with a pen. So I was really happy with this, and then we're going to move on to creating something for the front. Now, of course, this part here is kind of where the world is your oyster. You can pretty much go in any direction, but I'm going to keep this super simple, and I love the outcome of this card. I have chosen 3 green inks. Never mind me that I'm using some recycled paper. So if you see things that are on the back, that's just me on a little piece of extra scrap, and I may as well use the other side for something good. Now for this, you could definitely use a normal domed blender. However, I just find it just as easy to use the finger daubers. If I get a chance, I pretty much use these just because I don't get inky fingers. I don't have to switch off any of the domed blenders because I only have 4 of the handles for the domed blenders, so I have to switch them out all the time if I want to use lots and lots of colors. But anyhow, so for this I am going to just use 3 colors. I have Twisted Citron, I have Mowed Lawn, and I think it's Pine Needles for my darkest color. And all I'm going to do is this is just my type of coloring, super rough and quick. And then at this point I was like, I'll just chop a bit off the ends so that I know I have some for my other part here. So this is just me making sure I don't go overboard. I've done a very big piece of the Twisted Citron there, but I'm going to pop some Mowed Lawn down, and again, these colours are going to blend together gorgeously. The paper that I use, if I'm really wanting to get an amazing smooth blend, I use Tim Holtz's watercolour paper, the smooth side of that. But this paper here is the Frencheville brand from, I'm probably saying that wrong, but I purchased it here from Spotlight here in New Zealand. I know that exactly the same paper is available in Australia. It's £110, and I buy it in big packs of whatever the big reams are of it for around 17 New Zealand dollars, which is really good. So that's what I'm using here to blend, and it blends beautifully. It takes alcohol markers perfectly, so all good things. Now, if you have some gold mirror cardstock or some gold cardstock or whatever, I would have been fine here, but I don't, so I'm going to make my own. So I am just taking my finger of all things, and I'm going to put down some Lunar paste. This is from Simon Hurley. This is the Slippery When Wet colour. Now, this is the gold that I use. It's actually his yellow, I guess, colour, and he has a proper gold colour out there, but in my opinion, this is the perfect gold for me. It's a warm gold, whereas the actual gold that he has is more of a cool gold, just in my personal opinion. So I do love this one. I have been toying with getting with the gold and the silver, that's for sure, and maybe I still will, but this one to me is the perfect gold. This makes gorgeous splatters, opaque splatters, if you add a little bit of water to this. I am finding this a very versatile product. So I've just used my finger to create some gold cardstock because I didn't have any. Now, to make life easy for myself, I'm using some Stick It double-sided adhesive. These are double-sided adhesive sheets, ultra thin for die cutting, especially because I'm going to add this on the back of this piece here, the gold piece that I created. And so if I were die cutting, which I am, I wouldn't use these scrapbook.com double-sided sheets because they are much thicker and it doesn't seem to get a super clean cut. So I have two different types of double-sided adhesive that I use for those jobs. Now, this is the Leafy Dies 1 from Pink and Main, and I'm going to cut out just the outline. These two leaves layer up. I have used these before in several videos. I love this leaf. This is like a staple kind of die for me, something that I can use in so many different occasions, so many different applications, and I will continue to use it in more. I love it. I've also done stamping with this die cut. All sorts of good things. But anyhow, so I have cut this out of the gold cardstock that we created. Remember, this has got the Stick It double-sided adhesive on the back of it now, and look how cleanly it cut. It cut beautifully. And then I have this gorgeous gold die cut, and I'm going to save all those pieces in there because that's going on another card. I didn't film the card, but I used that as I did some die cut inlay with those, so that's why I kept them inside the die. And then this one here is the base layer, and this is just a gorgeous leaf. I love this die, stunning. So obviously I'm going to layer these ones up together. Now, I could have done just one or the other, but I think this is going to turn out really well. Just making sure that I have everything kind of in the right way. Then I'm going to pull off the release paper. It just pulls off. Then I'm going to kind of just use my fingers to guide this into place. The great thing about Stick It adhesive is that it kind of sticks down, but it doesn't become permanent until you apply pressure. So when I really squeeze these together with my fingers, once they're in the right place, then I know that this adhesive has become permanent. Now, also, this leaf has a little bit of a curve to it, and I'm going to show you something in a minute, which is going to be helpful for the project that we have too. So, now, working on putting this card together, I need a sentiment, and sometimes when I have done all this other crafting, and I just don't feel like stamping out my own sentiments, I have these here. I use the Paper Rose, the All Occasions, and the black and white packs, but this is the Simon Says stamp. I think it's just Happy Birthday or something like that set, and I love these. These are so handy just when you want to cut them out. You're done. You don't really want to get up more stamping and clean your stamps and all those sorts of things, and it's okay. It's okay to be that way, and I kind of told myself that a year or so ago, that it's okay to have these sorts of bits and pieces, and boy have I loved it. So I know that you've seen these over and over again on my channel. I love them. Sometimes it just is the way, and this is a whole pack of them. I just store them in the pack and then cut out the ones that I need. I'm going with a really simple Happy Birthday for this one, and of course I will link all of the supplies that I've used in the video down below. hopefully that is helpful if you're wanting to check something out. Of course, it helps me out if you use those links, which I appreciate. I will also leave a link to the Buy Me a Coffee. That's really, really helpful for the channel. I release 3 videos a week at the moment, if not more, if I have time. And yeah, I just hope it's really interesting, and I hope that this is helpful and gives you ideas and sparks a little bit of creativity and gives you some ideas. So I've put some double-sided tape on the back of my little panel there, and I still really love this. Now I am going to adhere this down, but I'm using some liquid glue because, as I said, this leaf has a little bit of a curve to it, but I sort of want it to follow the edge of my background panel there. So I'm kind of, you can see how it would veer off, but I'm just going to straighten it up. I will have to hold it in place for a minute. Now again, this is another good thing about this die because it's got sort of a fine enough stem that I'm able to wiggle this into the direction and the places that I want it to go. I'm going to have to hold it a little bit. That's why I use liquid glue, so that I can sort of maneuver it, then get it into place, and then hold it where I want it to go. And it follows that nice little beginning part of my background panel perfectly. Now I could have put this right across the center, but I thought it ended up looking a little bit better if I would cut this down. Either, anything would work fine here, I think, but I did decide to cut it down, and I think it already stands out enough because it's got the white background with the black writing. I think it stands out from the busy black background enough. So I'm just going to glue these in place. I was deciding, this was the hardest part, I swear. I couldn't decide if I wanted it centered to the left or stacked on top of each other or right across the middle. Anyhow, I finally did decide that I just wanted it kind of in the middle a little bit. And then that is this card finished for today. So I hope you enjoyed creating this background with me. This little optical illusion was pretty fun to create, and even my daughter was loving creating some of these as well. So I hope that you give it a go. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!